John Goolgasian is president of Seerist Federal. Thanks for joining me, John. What are some of the emerging technologies that you expect to see in this space? What are people going to be able to do in the future that maybe they can't do right now or can't do as much of?
Where I see potential in the future going is really the combination of some of the technologies and the artificial intelligence aspects that we've been working on for a number of years. Things like neural nets and deep learning models, and not just standalone pieces. That's how they have been today, but really combining those with things like large language models, so that you're not only illustrating what's happening in a location, but really putting into the context with other sources of information on what it means and put the context around things. The USGIF and the GEOINT community has focused for years and years on imagery and imagery-derived analysis and things like that. Our company really focuses on the so what outside of that, like bringing together openly available information of all types to put context around the information. Mm-hmm. So I really think where you're going to see the community move in the next few years is not just things as standalone imagery and neural nets assessing openly available information and non-structured information, but combining those things to give users from decision makers down to operators really this holistic picture of an area that hopefully, and we believe it can be, will give you leading indicators of potential problems and leading indicators of disruption, so that you're not reacting, but you're able to proactively address things.
Yeah. So what is an interesting way of responding to what I'm hearing a lot of on the show floor. And my thought was, now what? If you have all these images, now what do you do with them to extract information out of them to make the collection of those images valuable? It sounds like that's the same idea that you're talking.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And really putting it into the challenges of the next 2 decades, right? Mm-hmm. Moving, not necessarily moving, but learning from what we've done over the past, decade plus with the war on terror, and how do we apply that to things like great power competition, mm-hmm. and that ability to look at imagery in context with non-imagery sources around China influence activities, for example, and then how do you project that into ability to see what's happening on imagery, what's happening from the influence standpoint, what's happening from soft power around the world too, and combining it into something that's new that really hasn't been done before. But I think the advancements in a lot of technology we're seeing is going to allow the automation of that by bringing all that information into context, providing the picture, but more than just the picture, extracting the information from the picture, and then applying it to those large language models as well.
When you talk about the components of all of these, though, it sounds to me like everything that you've listed is something that's available, and it's a matter of integrating them effectively. Is that a fair read?
I think it is. I mean, we're at the early stages of some of these things, and it's really tying them all together, which unfortunately sometimes is harder than it should be. There are organizations or companies that focus on one aspect of it, and there's agencies and organizations in the government that focus on one aspect of it. But it's kind of breaking those things down and then applying them into a consistent approach. Places like the CDAO at the Pentagon are really thinking about it as different components, right? Mm-hmm. A platform, a data source, algorithms that you can bring together in these loosely confined or loosely defined processes to answer those questions, to bring those things to bear. And we really need to move as a community toward that model, I believe, so that we're not doing one thing on its own, mm-hmm. but we do one thing on its own really, really well, but then we can combine it across the board with the other technologies and the other data sources that in the past haven't been as easy to bring together.
How will this community know when that integration has effectively happened? Is it just a matter of one day it will all work, or is there, I'm sure it's a lot more complicated.
Would love that, the magic wand to make it work and the magic pixie dust. But I really think it's when you start seeing human behaviors change. And what I mean by that are how our analysts are changing and how our operators are changing. Are they no longer doing a lot of the rote, repeating activities that they have to do today to get information, and shifting from being reporters of what happened to analyzers of what could happen? I spent a career in the intelligence community and been out for about 7 years working with both commercial companies and government organizations, and I still think about 80% of what analysts do is reporting of what's happened. With this type of technology and what we bring to bear, we think we can flip that and put it so that 80% of what they do is more advising on how it impacts that organization's mission, the national security, a company's bottom line as well. So to kind of flip that around from reporting and again to being proactive about what you should do about it.
John, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot.